Okay, Caroline, you have the source sheet, correct?
I do, thank you.
So good to see people. Okay, let's just do this. Hello, Mark. Hello, Deborah. Suzanne, David, Richard, Beth, long time no see. Hi, Amy. Hi, Jay. Hi, Connie. Good morning. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Hi, Barbara and Keith. Long time no see. All right. We've got a lot to study this morning, which I'm very excited about. A lot of juicy, intense material. We're in Acharei Mot, and let's do the bracha over Torah study. So, Caroline, if you can screen share that would be great. Thank you so much. Everybody in cacophony. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav
v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Blessed are you, source of all life, ruler of our world, who has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us to soak in your divine wisdom. Noah, do you mind closing that door or asking people to be quiet? Okay, thank you so much. If there's too much noise in the room or if something's getting in the way of the Zoom experience, please let me know. Good morning. Shabbat Shalom. I like everybody to be together and as much as possible and obstacle free. Hi. Oh. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. All right. Now, why does share screen not do what I tell it to do? I don't understand. I really, truly don't understand the mysteries here. Let's try this. Nope. All right, Caroline, it's not coming up for me for some reason, even though I'm clicking on it. So
I can share it, yeah.
Great. Oh, wow, coffee's especially good this morning. What a bracha. What a blessing. Small blessings in a crazy world, right? Hi, Asher Chaim, good to see you. So this is called, I'm wondering if you can get rid of what's up top, Caroline, and just make it, I think there's a way to make the source sheet itself like the full screen. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, let me take a look. 1 second.
Yes, that should do it. All right, it didn't quite, but it doesn't matter. Okay, go down and let people see the top of the page for a second. The tragedy of the goats, the mirroring of law and narrative. So in this parsha, which is called Acharei Mot, as many of you know, but not everybody knows, there is a detailing of the rite of Yom Kippur, the ancient and mysterious rite of which feature, not only, but feature two goats. One that goes to a place called Azazel, carrying the sins of Israel, and one who is sacrificed, right? La Adonai, to God. So we're going to examine that and the way that ritual mirrors dynamics in Genesis, which is absolutely fascinating, mysterious, and maybe ultimately disturbing. We'll decide. Right? That's the question on the table. What does this all mean for us? So first, what I would like to do for about 10 or 15 minutes is like ground us in the parsha and the opening verses and the rite and like what's going on here. And then we're going to go to Genesis and look at the parallels. So what I'm going to try to do, just because there's so much material here, is I'm going to take the first 10, maybe 15 minutes, probably not, to just do that, and then I'll open it up, and then I'll do that again, just so we can really dive in and get some good material under our belts. Okay, make sense? Yeah? Oh, good. People are nodding their heads. I'm so happy. Excellent. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. This is the very beginning of the Parsha, and the first verse is actually stunning to me. Vayidaber Adonai a Moshe acharei mot shnei bnei Aharon. So Adonai spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron. Bikorvatam lifnei Adonai vayamutu. When they drew too close to the presence of Adonai, and they died. So why is this stunning? So for a number of reasons. Why is the Yom Kippur rite preceded by after the deaths of the sons of Aaron? Like, why is that even here? Why is that the opening, right? So we're beginning with after the death, right? After the death. Secondly, note, no sin is mentioned here. What's mentioned here instead? Bekorvatam lifnei Adonai. When they drew, and it doesn't say two in the Hebrew. That's just an editorial insertion into the translation in the English. Too close to the presence. There's no too close. When they came close to Adonai, period. So what's the problem? If you didn't read Shemini, right? If you didn't read the Parsha about their deaths, you wouldn't know that there was a problem. They died when they came close. And in fact, there are two streams of commentary about their death. One is they did all kinds of things wrong. In Vayikra Rabbah, Parshat Kaf, in the 20th chapter of the Midrash on Vayikra, they were arrogant. They were single and a little self-involved. Literally, it says that in this ancient Midrash. They never got married. That was a problem, right? They drank. I mean, it's really a list of endless sins. And then there's another stream of commentary. You can actually find in the same Parsha that God took them because God loved them and they were holy. Wow. Right? What's going on here? So this seems, as opposed to the detailing of the original account of their deaths, where it says that they offered a strange fire, a zarah, right? A zarah, which really points to sin, especially the word zarah, because where is zarah used? Avodah zarah, idol worship. Hi, Alex. Good morning. Shabbat shalom. And Shabbat shalom to Jesse. Okay. So there it kind of points to sin, and here, not so much. So that's already interesting. So let's go forward.
Vayamutu is also very passive.
No. Stay there, Carolyn. Go up. No, up. Don't worry. I'll tell you when to move. Stay right there. You're good. Okay.
Thank you.
Vayamutu, as opposed to God killed them.
Yeah,
and they died. You're right. Good point. Very good point, Aaron. Next time, raise your hand. No. Vayomer. Okay, next verse. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, daber el Aharon, achicha, va'al yavo b'chol et el hakodesh, mibeit laparochet, al penei hakaporet, asher al ha'oron, v'lo yamut, ki be'anan ela al hakaporet. So this is another verse that's really loaded up with a lot of stuff and needs a lot of unpacking. So it says in English, Adonai said to Moses, no, stay right there, Caroline, don't move. No, stay right there. Don't move until I tell you to move. Right there, stay. Okay, good, excellent. Tell your brother Aaron that he is not to come at will at any time into the shrine behind the curtain in front of the cover that is upon the ark, lest he die. Why? For I appear in the cloud over the cover. Whoa. So what does this mean? So first of all, Aaron's not supposed to come whenever Aaron feels like it, right? Into the holy place. Because he might die. And remember, we talked about in other open books, holiness and God, really dangerous. This is no benign manifestation of presence, right? This is no we all love to talk about Shekhinah and love. This is not that. Not Shekhinah and love. Dangerous. Be careful. Only come in under certain very specific conditions, right? Okay, so let's see what Rashi says about all this. Rashi has some great comments. And now, Caroline, you can scroll up just a little bit or down. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so Rashi says, "V'yidaber Adonai Moshe acharei mot shnei bnei Aharon." We're in source 2. Ma Talmud lomar. So what is the Torah telling us here? Haya Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Moshlo Mashal. So the way they're answering the question, what is the Torah telling us here? In other words, what's the question? The question is, why are we starting with Acharei Mod Shnei Bnei Aharon? Why are we starting with the deaths of the sons of Aaron, right? So Rashi wants to know, everyone wants to know, why are we starting with them? So how is Rashi answering in a really interesting way? With a mashal, with a parable, right? That's a sort of hermeneutic gesture that Rashi and the Midrash often make. Okay, so the parable is Moshlo mashal lecholeh shenechnas etzlo rofeh. So there's some sick guy or sick woman. Here it's in the masculine. So there's a sick guy, and the doctor came into him to see him. Because then they used to make house visits. Even when I was little, they used to make house visits. Amar lo, al tochal tzonen v'al tishkav b'tachal. So the doctor says, don't eat cold things and don't lie around in damp air. Ba'acher v'amar lo. And then a different doctor says, al tochal tzonen v'al tishkav b'tachal. So another doctor comes and says the same thing with one exception. So the same thing is, don't eat cold things and don't lay around in damp air. Why? Shelo tamut kederach shemet ploni. So that you don't die the way your friend over there died. Right? You know someone who, God forbid, didn't wear seatbelts and died in a car accident. Then you remember, I'm going to wear seatbelts. I actually remember personally someone who died because they were looking at their phone and walking in the street. I know, horrible. This is years ago, but I think about it even today. Put your phone away. Don't, right? Like when you're crossing a street. Or in the street, no phone. That made a huge impact on me. So then it says, Zeh zerzo yoter min harishon. So the second one made him more careful than the first one, right? That makes sense. That's why the parsha starts with after the deaths of the sons of Aaron, because you better watch out. Look what happened to them. Okay, makes sense? Okay, good. Let's go on. Caroline, I'm sorry to be so controlling.
No worries, it's okay. I would, no worries.
Yeah, watch out for their fates. Source 3, that's what we want. Ah, stop there. Yep, good, perfect. Okay. Bashi. Okay, so then we go on to say, Vayomer Adonai Moshe daber el Aharon achicha ve'al yavo shelo yamut kederech shemetu barnav. So this is more the same, right? And the Lord spoke unto Moses, speaking to Aaron, thy brother, that he not come at all times into the holy place, that he not die, as his sons have died. Right? Okay. All right, last Rashi. Ki be'enan era'eh. Or is it era'eh? Era'eh? Thank you. Ki tamid ani ner'eh sham im amud anani. Lefi shegilui shchinati sham. Yizaher shelo yargil lavo. Zehu pshuto. For I constantly show myself there with my pillar of cloud, and because the revelation of my Shekhinah takes place there, he should take care not to make it his habit to come there. This is the literal meaning of the verse. And this also relates to, don't think just because God is there, you can go in any time. And this relates to the sons of Aaron, because it says that they offered an Eish Zara Asher Lo Tziva Adonai, that God did not command, right? And it's to navigate this place of divine power, you need to follow instructions. There needs to be a very tight container. So saying no. You can't just come in at any moment. You can't do that. It's not the way this works. Okay, I'm gonna go on. Hi, Julia. Hi, Tony. I think I said hello. Okay, hi, Wendy.
It's nice to be greeted by name.
As opposed to just hi.
Yo.
Yeah, I didn't say that. Okay, go on. Caroline, you can go down now. Okay, so now, stop right there. Great, excellent. Okay, so now let's look and see what happens to these goats. What is the right Heidever? Velakach et shnei ha'seirim. So Aaron shall take 2 he-goats, ve'enid otam l'fnei Adonai, and they both stand before God. Petach ohel moed, at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Okay, so try to remember these details because they're going to become relevant when we dive into Genesis. V'natan Aharon al shnei ha'seirim goralot. So this is fascinating. He shall place lots upon the 2 goats. Right, so there's an crazy element of chance here, which we'll discuss later. Echad l'Adonai v'goral echad l'Azazel. So one of these goats, any one of them, it doesn't matter which one of them, will be sacrificed to God, and the other one will be sent into the wilderness, and we'll see exactly how soon, and we'll look at also what Azazel potentially means. Verse 9, V'hikriv Aharon et haSa'ir asher ala alav. Asher alav hagoral Adonai va'asahu chatat. And Aaron sacrificed the goat that upon which fell upon it the lot of to Adonai, and made into it a sin offering. V'haSa'ir asher ala alav hagoral la'azazel. Well, the goat designated by law for Azazel shall be left standing alive before Adonai. Very dramatic, right? V'shalach oto la'azazel hamidbara, to make expiation with it and to send it off to the wilderness for Azazel. And we'll see more about how that goat is sent into the wilderness in a moment. Good morning, David. So good to see you. Okay, Caroline, number 6. Let's just see this. Okay, so Jonathan Sachs. Jesse, can you read that? Number 6, in a loud voice. Take your time.
Yes. Starting the scapegoat, right?
Yes, the scapegoat. Yeah.
From Covenant and Conversation by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, the scapegoat. Azazel.
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 That's good. That's fine.
That is a compound noun meaning the goat that was sent away.
Az she'azal.
This led to the addition of a new word to the English language. In 1530, William Tyndale produced the first English translation of the Hebrew Bible, an act then illegal and for which he paid with his life. Seeking to translate Azazel, I can't pronounce it.
It's okay.
It's my mother's fault.
I'll help
anyway. She was Viennese. She never got married. Seeking to translate into English, he called it the scapegoat. For example, the goat that was sent away and released. In the course of time, the first letter was dropped and the word scapegoat was born.
Really interesting, right? So we use scapegoat all the time in society, in family relations, in politics.
Against each other.
Against each other. We scapegoat each other, absolutely. Okay. Now let's go down to number 7, Carolyn. Perfect. Asher Chaim, do you feel like reading? Whenever my voice starts to become a little strained, I call on Asher Chaim, if you're willing.
We're at 7?
7, correct.
Yes. וכלל מכפר את הקודש ואת אוהל מועד ואת המזבח והקריב את השעיר החי. When he concludes covering over, atoning the holy place and the tent of meeting and the altar, he shall bring near the living goat. ושמח אהרון את שתי ידיו על ראש השעיר החי, Aharon shall press down his two arms over the head of the living goat, hitvada alav, and make confession on it, et kol avonot b'nei Yisrael, all of the sins of the children of Israel, v'et kol pish'ehem lechol hatatam, and other types of sins, v'natan otam al rosh ha'sa'ir, and place them on the head of the goat, v'shilah biyad ish eti hamidbara, and send it off in the hands of a person who is trustworthy, towards the wilderness.
Appointed or something to do with time, right?
The man of the hour.
The man of the hour, exactly. Thank you, Asher Chayer.
V'nasa hasa'ir alav et kol avonatam el eres gezerah. The goat shall carry upon it all of their sins, to an earth that is cut off. V'shilach et hasa'ir b'midbar, and he shall send away the goat in the wilderness. Uva Aharon el Ohel Moed, ufashak et bigdei habad asher lavash b'vo Ohel HaKodesh v'hinecham sham. At that point, Aharon shall come into the tent of meeting and divest of the linen garments that he wore when he came into the holy place, and place them there. V'rahatz et b'saro b'mayim b'makom kadosh, v'lavash et b'gadav. He shall bathe or immerse his flesh in water in a holy place, and put on his clothing. V'yasa v'asa et olato v'olat ha'am v'chiper ba'ado v'ad ha'am.
Caroline, go a little bit down.
Then he shall go out and prepare his sacrifice and the sacrifice of the people, and atone on his own behalf and on behalf of the nation.
Thank you. Beautiful. So this purging of the shrine happens through blood, right? The blood of the bull sacrifice. And Jacob Milgram, who's the great 20th century Bible scholar, talks about that blood as kind of detergent, which purges the shrine.
Oh no.
Let's read the next thing to clarify that a little bit.
The Catholics
Okay.
took that and ran with
Hold on. We'll get there. Okay.
Sorry.
So yeah, people please. Yeah, thanks you. Okay.
Synagogue tour study. Sorry, Kurt.
All right, people, shut your phones off if you have it. That's okay. It's fine. Okay. So the scapegoat. Does someone want to read this? David, do you feel like it?
Sure.
Number 8.
Two quite distinct processes were involved on Yom Kippur. First, there was a kapara, atonement. This is the normal function of a sin offering. Second, there was tahara, purification, something normally done in a different context altogether, namely the removal of tumah, ritual defilement, which could arise from a number of different causes, among them contact with a dead body, skin disease, or nocturnal discharge. Atonement has to do with guilt. Purification has to do with containment or pollution. These are usually two separate worlds. On Yom Kippur, they were brought together.
So there's the purging of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle, but the goat rite has specifically to do with the sins of Israel. Okay? Okay, so now let's put that aside. I'm going to take a couple of comments for up to 5 minutes, and then we want to get to Genesis. So hold on. Let me stop. Caroline, stop sharing. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
Okay, so I see 2 hands. There was a hand in the room, and then Marla and Tony. So I'm going to ask people to be brief because we've got lots of juicy material to get into. We're not even get at the heart of the matter. So, Gloria. You have to unmute, Gloria. You have to unmute.
It occurs to me in listening that this seems to be a mikvah-like male purification. Are there other examples of men doing a mikvah-like purification?
Wait, what do you mean mikvah-like? I don't understand. I don't understand.
It said he bathed himself in pure holy water.
Oh, I see. Yes, that
Mikvah.
is, yes, absolutely. Water, living water in the Torah has a function of purification. It's all over the place. Absolutely, Gloria, that's right. That's
So
right.
there are
Yes,
other instances of men.
many, many. Okay, first of all, mikvah, until the time of the destruction of the Second Temple, was equally a male-female kind of thing. I'm not going to get into under what conditions men are impure and what conditions women are impure. But there are conditions under which they are both, and mikvah was egalitarian in that sense. Now, once the temple was destroyed, for whatever reasons, right, mikvah, ritual purity became focused on women and menstruation. Men sometimes go to the mikvah, but it's usually, maybe always, for spiritual reasons. And women go for halachic reasons. There's a whole other conversation, so I'm not going there. Or I just went there, but
Okay,
I'm
thank
done
you.
going. Yeah,
I'm
you're so welcome. If you want to email me for more information, Gloria, about that, I'm happy to send you more information. But that's the right association. Okay, Jay. Okay, so now, okay.
Shabbat shalom.
Okay, I saw you, Wendy, and after that, no more.
Whoa.
I saw you. Aside from the people I called on already.
Okay, just
You,
making
Tony
sure.
Stern.
I know you all.
I'm not
Tony
calling
wanted-
anyone else, no, until the next round. I'm sorry. You just missed the line.
Sorry.
Sorry, boss.
I stomped on your.
I gotta be strict, otherwise we're not gonna go forward. Okay, Jay.
Shabbat shalom. I have this bad habit of getting stuck on the first line of any text, and it struck me that there's no mention of Ish Zara. It's all about getting close to God, and then Aaron is warned about the same thing. And I know you're not going to go to that, but in the spirit of mirroring Genesis, it occurs to me that this whole notion of an aspiration that is too lofty, that is an overreach, if you will, is really an echo possibly also of the Tower of Babel.
Tower
Oh,
of
interesting.
what? Tower of
Of the Tower of Babel.
Oh,
Tower of Babel. Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, overreaching here in the context of holiness, and there it was against God, not. I'm trying to remember, were they trying to reach God or the heavens? I don't remember what the specific language was. But that's really interesting. Yeah, it's like not wanting limitations. And
That is interesting.
and therefore going to dangerous territory. Okay, so now I'm going to the people in the room. Marla,
Are we going to talk more
I
about?
saw you. You're gonna have to wait till the next round. I'm sorry.
You didn't, next round.
Next round. I'm not gonna forget you, I promise. Okay, and you too, okay? You're gonna be first next round, okay?
The sentence on Yom Kippur, they were brought together. Are we going to explore that concept?
On Yom Kippur, they were brought together?
Yeah.
What do you mean brought together?
It's the last sentence in this Rabbi Sachs.
Oh, no.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's all right. Thank you.
We're heading towards a different theme, but again, I'm glad to talk to you about it.
I just want to put in a word. I know this isn't the only valid view, but I'm going to say sin and purity and purification may have their useful functions and maybe even really are helpful, but it's very easy from a modern and postmodern view to see them as just causing us trouble.
Yes, I agree, we're gonna get into that.
And doubly so when you get into blood purification, and then you have the whole blood of the Savior thing going forward. I mean, we provided the seed for centuries of martyrdom.
All right, Tony, stop there only because
Okay.
we're going to, you're sort of going to the end and we're at the beginning.
Okay.
So we're gonna get to some of these ideas.
Okay.
So thank you.
Well played.
Today, currently, when somebody dies and tahara is performed.
Tahara, so just unpack that so people know what you're talking about.
Is how the body is prepared before burial by a group of people, and prayers are said. And part of the process is bathing and placing the deceased in a mikveh, and then the deceased is dressed in linen clothing that is representative of what the Kohen wore during temple times.
Beautiful. Thank you for taking that imagery into the room.
Yeah.
So so that means that death has to do with becoming a Kohen, right, a priest, at like the height of purity and ready to approach the divine presence. That's
me
amazing.
very
Thank you.
emotional.
Okay, Amy, last one for now, and then you both are on deck for the next round. Okay, so remember what you have to say.
No?
No, next round. Next round. Some people do. Okay, Amy.
Yeah, I just have one question.
Yeah.
If you could choose, which goat would you be? Would you be the goat that gets sacrificed by the priest, or would you be the goat that gets thrown off the cliff? And with the notion that in the Buddhist concept that whoever eats you when you die, you become them. So if you are killed by the priest, then you would become a priest in your next life. But if you're thrown off the cliff and killed by a goat, you're going to get eaten by wild animals, and you'll reincarnate as a wild animal. But just wanted to know what your thoughts were.
So Amy, that's a fabulous question. I love it.
Discussion.
And let me just say that only in the Midrash is the goat thrown off the cliff, not in the Torah itself. Right. So Amy's, as usual, she's seeped in Midrash and going there. So I'm going to leave that question for the end, or if people want to chat about it, because I want to look at who gets sent into the wilderness and who's sacrificed before we go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could I see a show of hands in the room of the people who would like to be
Not yet.
the group?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. All right. At the end.
We're gonna. Yes, we'll do a show of hands.
Okay. All right.
Or people will remark in the chat which goat. The chat's open. You want to be a goat? Just say which goat you want to be. Okay, chat's open. And then if we have time for the show of hands, we'll go there. Okay, please screen share Caroline. So they sent me to rabbinical school not only to learn these texts, but to do crowd control.
They didn't teach you that in rabbinical school.
What?
They didn't teach you that in rabbinical school.
No.
You had to learn that on your own.
I learned that from this
They
group.
should have taught you that in rabbinical school.
You'll learn that parenting.
Classroom management. Okay, great. So now we are up to, that's a little much, Caroline.
Here, let me try to pick it 1 sec.
Okay, so now we are, hold on. Let me just tell you, we are in number 9. Okay, great. Number 9. Let's see the full text of number 9 if we can. Perfect. Okay, so now we're in Genesis. Okay, so I'm taking 2 pairs of children to see how they match up or don't with these goats. So let's look at Ishmael. Oof. People are getting it. I don't have to read it. Here in the room. Okay. ויגדל הילד ויגמל ויעש אברהם משתה גדול ביום היגמל את יצחק. So the child grew up and was weaned, and Abraham held a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. ותראה שרה את בן הגר המצרית אשר ילדה לאברהם מצחק. And Sarah saw the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had born to Abraham. It says playing, but it can also be translated more literally as laughing. And also sounds like Isaac's name. So one translation I heard, or one understanding I heard from Professor Lori Lefkowitz, who's at Northeastern, which I love, said, Sarah saw Yishmael Isaacing. In other words, Sarah was threatened because she thought the legacy of her own son was being threatened. Atomer Abraham, Garesh ha'ama hazot ve'et bena, ki lo yirash ben ha'ama hazot, im b'ni im Yitzchak. So Sarah said to Abraham, cast out that slave woman and her son, for the son of that slave shall not share in the inheritance with my son Isaac. Vayerah hadavar me'od be'inei Avraham al odot bano. And Abraham, it was very evil in his eyes, because it was about, or let me just see, because it was about his son. And it doesn't say, so the translation says, for it concerned a son of his. No, wrong. Al odot bano, because it was about his son, period. Not a son of his. The translation, again, softens things and takes the edge or the teeth out of the translation, as we saw earlier. Vayomer Elohim el Avraham, al yera be'enecha al hanar va'al amatecha kol asher tomer elecha Sarah shema b'kola ki b'tzchak yikareh lecha zera. But God said to Abraham, do not be distressed of the boy or your slave. Whatever Sarah tells you, do as she says, for it is through Isaac that offspring shall be continued for you. V'gam et ben ha'ama l'goy asimenu ki za'acha hu. And also, the son of the handmaiden, I will make him a great nation, or a nation, because he is your seed. Vayishkem Avraham babocher, and Abraham got up early in the morning. Vayikach lechem v'chemat mayim, and he took bread and some flask of water. Vayiten el Hagar sam al shichma ve'et hayeled vayishalcheha v'telech v'teita v'midbar be'er shava. Early next morning, Abraham took some bread and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He placed them over her shoulder together with the boy. Go up a little bit. Down. Sorry. He together with the child and sent her away, and she wandered about in the wilderness of the Be'er Sheva. So here we can say, the goat who's gone into the wilderness, perhaps with the sins of the family of Abraham. Perhaps. Okay, let's go down. So goat number 2, Isaac. Okay. Here we have the Akedah. Okay, so you know what? I'm not going to go through this because we all know, I'm not going to read this, because we all know that Isaac was nearly slaughtered on the altar, and that if the angel hadn't stopped Abraham with the knife in his hand, his son would have been slaughtered. So I'm not going to read this text. I think most people know very well, and if you don't, please look at number 10. So let's go down to the Midrash. Piskei to Rabbi Eliezer. Okay, so Rabbi Yehuda Omer, and this is a strain of interpretation within Judaism, both midrashically and in later commentaries. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kevan she'egia ha'cherev al tzararav, parcha v'yatsa nafsho shel Yitzchak. When the blade touched his neck, the soul of Isaac fled and departed. In other words, he died. V'kevan sheheshmiya kolo miben hakruvim, v'amar lo al tishlach yadcha. But when he heard his voice from between the two kruvim, where are the two kruvim? In the tabernacle, right? Saying to Abraham, lay not your hand upon the lad, v'amar lo al tishlach yadcha, nafsho chazra legufo. His soul went back to his body because he heard that voice. V'kam v'amad Yitzchak al raglav. Yitzchak got up and stood on his feet. V'yada Yitzchak shekach hametim atidim lachayot. And Isaac knew that in this manner, the dead in the future will be quickened or will come back to life. Upatach v'amar, and he opened his mouth, and he said, Baruch atah Adonai chayei hametim. Blessed are you, O God, who resurrects the dead. Forget this word quickens, doesn't do anything for anybody. Who resurrects the dead, who enlivens the dead. This is unbelievable. So the story of Isaac, right at the Akedah, is a story of death and resurrection. Whoa. Oh my. Okay, let's go on.
Wow.
Thank you.
Christian's got the idea from somewhere.
When was this written?
Hold on. I think that this midrash is a little bit late, but I really don't remember. I'm sorry, I should have included it. I really don't remember exactly. Asher Chaim, might you know, or someone else? Put it in the chat. This is the time to crowdsource. What happens to Isaac in the Quran? That's an interesting question that I'm not going to go to now. Okay. Anyone know? Okay, so maybe the answer will emerge. But now I want to go to Yaakov and Esav, because it's even more, in certain ways. No, stop it. Oh, Caroline, stop right there. In a way, it's the parallels are even more obvious, or at least the language leads us in that direction. Here, they're structurally parallel, right?
8th and 9th century.
8th and 9th century. Thank you very much. But now we're going to see linguistic parallels that are really interesting. So, number 12. So this is the beginning. This is Rebecca giving birth. When her time to give birth was at hand, or her days were fulfilled to give birth. And behold, she had twins in her belly. Sorry, I can't see the kulo, and one came out all red, ka'aderet se'ar, like a hairy mantle. But realize the words se'ar, hairy, and se'ir are very much related. In other words, goat and hairy. Vayikru'u shemo Esav, and they called his name Esav. ואחריכן יצא אחיו וידו אוחזת בעקב עשיו ויקרא שמו Yaakov. So after that, his brother came out, and his hand is holding on to the heel of Esav, and that's why his name is Heel, meaning Yaakov. The Yitzchak, so this guy's real heel, right? He's a typical character. Yitzchak ben 60 shana beledet otam. And Isaac was 60 years old when they were born, another older father. Remember Abraham was, how did I get to? Okay, next round. We're not up to that. Next round. You got to remember all your comments. I'm sorry. Abraham was 100 when he had Isaac, and now Isaac is 60 when his twins were born. Okay. Now let's go down a little bit. Caroline, number 13. Good. Perfect. Okay, so here we're talking about, we're in the scene where Rivka talks to Yaakov about duping Isaac because she wants Yaakov to have the blessing of the firstborn, not Esav. Okay, so Rivka, Amra el Yaakov bina, she says to her son Jacob, Lamor, saying, Hine shamati avicha medaber el Esav. Here I heard your father talking to Esav, your brother, saying, Lamor, Hadia li tzayed va'aseh li matamim va'ochela. Bring me hunted game, and make me delicacies, and I will eat them. Va'ochela ve'avarechacha, and I will bless you lifnei Adonai, before God, lifnei moti, before my death. Ba'ata b'ni shema b'koli, and now, my son, listen to my voice. La'asher ani mitzaveh otach, that I am commanding you, or listen to what I command you. Lech na el hatzon v'kach li misham shnei gidayei izim tovim ve'eseh otam matamim la'avicha kasher I have. Go to the flock and fetch me 2 choice goats, and I will make of them a dish for your father, such as he likes. Now, no, there are only 2 pairs of goats in the entire Torah. One is in the Yom Kippur rite, in Leviticus 16, and the other one is right here. 2 goats. We're going to see the Midrash makes this connection in a moment. It's a lot of food.
Yeah.
It's a lot of food. You're right. Veheveta la'avicha v'achal ba'avor asher yivarechacha lifnei moto. Then take it to your father to eat, in order that he may bless you before he dies. Okay, now let's look, number 14, Midrash. Perfect. So the Midrash brings these two moments together. And Rebecca says, take from me from the herd 2 good goats. So the Midrash asks, what's good? What makes them good? Rabbi Berchia, Mahu Tovim, Rabbi Berchia B'Shem, Rabbi Chelbo, Amar, Tovim Lecha, V'Tovim Levecha, Lebanecha. And Rabbi Berchia said in the name of Rabbi Chelbo, they will be good for you and good for your children. How are they good for you? Tovim Lecha, She'al Yadehem At, meaning Ata, Mekabel Brachot. Because by these 2 goats, you're going to receive blessings. You need these goats so you can deceive your father and receive blessings. V'tovim levanecha she'el yadehem mikaper levanecha b'yom kippurim. And good for your children. Why? Or your descendants? Because of the offering of the goats, atonement will be made for your children on Atonement Day. And then the Midrash quotes, Ki biyom hazeh yichaper alechem. On this day shall atonement be made for you. Those goats and these goats. Now, when I was studying with my friend Rabbi Sharon Cohn-Asfeld, who may or may not be here, she said, what you're about to do, Jacob, right, in terms of stealing the blessing, or at least, deceiving your father and pretending to be your brother, you're going to need atonement for. And so these goats will both enact the deception and result in blessings, and will also be a method for you to gain atonement down the line.
Interesting.
Really interesting. Okay, so let's go down. Number 15. Excellent. Vayomer Yaakov el Rivka imo hein Esav achi ish sa'ir. So this is Yaakov's response to Rebecca's plan. And he says to his mother, Hein Esav achi ish sa'ir. But my brother is a hairy man, ish sa'ir, a goat man. Va'anochi ish chalak. And I am a smooth man. Ulai yemusheni avi v'hayiti be'enav k'mitatea v'haveti alai klala v'lo bracha. If my father touches me or feels me, I shall appear to him, because I'm smooth, I shall appear to him as a trickster and bring upon myself a curse and not a blessing. Okay, so Jacob's worried, but the point of bringing this here is that he calls his brother an Isair, a goat man. Okay, so now let's look at Breshit Rabbah. Number 16. Oh, I could see all kinds of interesting things that are happening in the chat. I don't know, are people voting on goats? Okay, is that there? Perfect, thank you. V'nasa hasair alav. So this is a reference to the goat that carries the sins of Israel into the wilderness. Ze Esav. Who's the goat that carries the sins into the wilderness? Esav. Shne'emar, Hein Esav achi isair. And they quote, behold, Esav, my brother, is a hairy man. Et kol avonotam. So this is a quote from Vayikra, again, 16, that the goat is carrying all the sins, and they parse avonotam to avonot tam, the sins of the pure one. So Yaakov, even though he's really not pure at all, is referred to at the beginning as an ishtam, as a pure man, right? Yoshev Ohalot, who sits in the tent all day. Even though we all know he's a very strategic, kind of conniving guy. So Esav, the Isair, ends up carrying avonot tam, the sins of the pure one, into the wilderness. Whoa. Okay, that was a lot. I'm going to read a couple more things and open it up. If you can go up a little bit first, so I can see 17. Perfect. So a lot of this is in David Kasher's from Hadar, his Parsha piece this week. You might want to listen to it. And he says, right into the verse in our Parsha, it means that the goat that goes to Azazel will carry off the sins of the pure man. That is the sins of Yaakov, which now means all sins of Israel. And that is just what this goat in the Yom Kippur ritual does. Those linguistic connections might awaken us to a larger parallel between the scene of blessing theft in Genesis and the Avodah service of Yom Kippur. For both settings involve selection between two faiths, one of which leads to God and the other away from the covenantal community. But realize, and this also comes from my study this morning with Rabbi Sharon, that even though Esav and Yishmael both go into the wilderness, which is really interesting, they are both blessed by God. They're both blessed by God. They're not lost and abandoned by God just because they don't enter the covenantal community. So there's a stark choice between faiths, right? That's polarized. And yet, God doesn't abandon either. Well, God certainly doesn't abandon God's covenantal community, but God also doesn't abandon the one who was othered. So that's really interesting.
That's a lot.
Oh, and there's another thing, which is even though the Midrash really makes of Yishmael and Isaac and Yaakov and Esav evil, good and evil, really polarizes them, and the text itself, they're very complicated personalities, especially Yaakov and Esav. Who's the good one? Who's the bad one? I don't know. Maybe it's a goral. Maybe it's an issue of fortune and luck and lot, right? It's a lot of life, as in, your destiny just happens to be. So that's also interesting. It also makes one humble, because if one doesn't know which goat is going to be, if one can't decide by one's own actions which goat one is to be, to get back to Amy's point before, then who you are is not about your merit. It's an accident of fate. Okay, we've got a bunch of hands. Let me just see. I'm going to read one more. I'm going to open it up. Okay. This is from Karl Barth, 20th century theologian, Christian theologian, which is important to say. The second goat is also placed before the Lord, that the treatment meted out to him and the tragic record of his unusability also form an integral part of the sign and testimony set up on the Day of Atonement. Cain is just as indispensable as Abel, and Ishmael as Isaac. For the grace which makes an elect man of the first can be seen only from the second. Because the first, the elect, must see in the second, the non-elect, as in a mirror, that from which he was taken, and who and what the God is who has delivered him from it. Okay, there's more. I'm going to stop there for the moment. Two people here have been waiting very patiently. And hold on, let me put this on gallery. And I'm only going to take comments from people who have not yet spoken.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry to keep you waiting so long.
I'm very impressed with the beginning. No people, just goats. Oh, well, goats do that. I mean, I could have said, if I were at that time, goats do what goats do, and I'll do what I do. It's not as positive as something like, listen to me, and you have a soul, and look and see what your soul does. And it's more personal, and I'm affected more personally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, people become goats, absolutely.
And also,
rather sacrifice goats than people, and rather send goats into the wilderness than people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Also, I'm impressed that Hashem says to Abraham, Isaac, do what Sarah tells you to do.
God tells Abraham.
So right away, we never saw that as a way of saying, she's a woman, do what your woman says. So, but eventually, at this time of my life, there is a great deal of do what women do, and a woman but still in my Siddur, it says, thank God I was not born a
You have the wrong Siddur. It's not my Siddur, it's in your Siddur. Okay, I'm gonna go on, okay?
I made my point.
I think you made your point.
Okay,
You did very well.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think I'm
Okay.
the naysayer in the room. I wonder.
You're a naysayer in the room, I'm so surprised.
You know,
What are you saying no to? I'm curious
well,
what I've
I'm
said.
struck by the, to go back to the earlier process of the business with the goats, that it's like the Hebrew people are suffering from a collective OCD, you know,
Yes, we are.
in putting all their sins on this animal and being very strict about the rules connected with this animal. And I wonder if any other peoples in the region go through this, which seems to be very, very primitive. Again, it's a very primitive ritual, placing all the sins.
Okay, let me just say one
on
thing.
goats.
This Torah is in a sense primitive, right? It's old, right? On the other hand, I'm not sure we've moved beyond it.
Yeah.
We scapegoat people all the time. Have we? I'd rather do the ritual than what we do.
Yeah.
Rather that violence than this violence.
Oh, yeah.
So we can discuss that. Okay, I saw Ben,
Interesting.
and then, yeah.
Yeah. So a couple things. One is that I feel like this is bringing up for me, just in general, dealing with the loss of one's sons. You know, when inevitably we have to send young men off to die, or otherwise in the course of events, you know, they die, they're cut down young, or for whatever reason, some survive and some do not. How do we deal with that? And I feel like some of this is speaking to me about that issue, and I want to connect it to the this issue of lots, as you were saying, with it might just be luck which one is the elect and which one isn't, but I think that the parents don't really feel that way, and I want to connect it to Abraham and Sarah, because I feel like on the one hand you have Abraham saying that Ishmael is his son, you know, so why this one and not that one? To him they are the same, but to Sarah they are not the same. And so I think that it is that tension that we're trying to hold, because to God, are they the same or are they not the same?
Yes.
So
Well, to God, in terms of what God says in the Torah, they seem not to be the same.
No, but God says both. God says both. Yeah. God tries to agree with both Sarah first by saying, listen to Sarah, do what she says, and then says, but also you are right, Abraham, he is your son, and he will also be a great nation.
Absolutely.
So God tries to have it both ways.
Except that one goes into the wilderness and one doesn't.
Maybe, but I feel
definitely.
No, yes, but what I'm saying is that the point is that it is also lots, right? So is the wilderness not also God's place?
Yes.
It is.
It is God's place.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That's very clear earlier on also in the way that Hagar finds God in the wilderness.
Exactly. So
absolutely. It's also God's place.
Right, so what I'm saying is that God is encompassing both the life and the death. God is encompassing both the chosen and the not chosen, and God is embodying, God is identifying with both parents. The one who is seeing both goats, or both children, both sons, right, as his, and the one who's seeing both as not his, not hers.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, and to go back to Amy's question, I don't know what I'd want my fate to be. Do I want my fate in the wilderness, or do I want my fate sacrificed? Which do I don't want neither.
Right, but we're trying to hold both somehow simultaneously, and to deal with the fact that we can't predict which one is going to happen to our children.
Yeah, and and maybe a little bit comforting that God is in both places.
Right,
I think
that's our right.
And just to make one comment about what you said earlier, which is also very intense, the Akedah has become a stand-in, especially earlier on for poets in Israel, for sending one's children to war.
Right.
So it's like we're still sacrificing our children. And it's so tragic.
Right.
Yeah. I don't even know how to hold that.
But not all of them. Right. And the other interesting
Not all
thing
of, but it is now men and women. It's not just men. It's not
Right.
just sending their sons
Right.
to war.
Right.
Okay, I saw. Yeah.
Question. Hashem seems to let the older serve the younger, and this,
Seems to let. I'm sorry. What?
let the older serve the younger.
Yes.
So you go back
Does
to
seem to be that way in Genesis.
yeah.
Correct.
So why is that? This
Yeah, that's a great
thematically,
question. Great question. So,
from Esau to
yes, yeah,
David,
absolutely.
this is across, yeah.
So what scholars say about this is that Genesis is the book about overturning the usual way, reality, so that God's people can come into existence. So in other words, the status quo is not going to get us to the creation of an Israelite people. So the status quo was overturned again and again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I, to some extent, have trouble understanding how sin is defined and the wilderness. I mean, just because you referred to Tyndall, and of course that was a radical act in its time to translate the Bible, and that would have been considered a sin. And in fact, it was. I mean, I don't remember whether he was burned at the stake or drawn and quartered, but in any case,
yeah.
So the church would have defined that as a sin to be sent into the wilderness for. And I've always struggled with this issue of what were those sins other than this very specific set? Was it more extensive than that? And
well, the
in terms
sins
of
Israel
choosing what I want to be sacrificed or go into the wilderness, perhaps I'd want to enter the wilderness because I might have actions or opinions that I felt were more highly ethical, for instance. You know what I mean? That bucked the system.
So the sins of Israel are not enumerated in the book of Leviticus, but one can assume that it's like whatever infractions against Torah law that there were.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacob actually indulged in a number of those, lying and not respecting his father. Right? So perhaps those were the sins of Jacob that Esau carried into the wilderness.
But that has to be evolving over, just trying to see how it, impacts my own life.
Yes.
And how do I define those sins?
Well, that's a great question. And that's a big question. Yeah. So, I think my favorite understanding of sin is that which separates us from the divine.
Okay.
Right? So, and we know that often experientially.
Right.
Right.
But someone from the outside might define what we're doing.
And that's called scapegoating. Like William Tyndale, right? Yeah, exactly.
It's called playing.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Paul.
Using that definition of separation from God.
And then Sharon, I'm gonna come to you. Yeah.
The gravest sin of all is the sin of Aaron for facilitating the golden calf.
Yeah.
And that's gone unremarked here as a rationale.
Until now, yes.
Well, why were Aaron's sons killed? And it doesn't say that they were killed because they drew close.
Yes, it does.
It only says
it says when. Yes, that's true.
Not because.
That is absolutely true. It gives us the occasion of their death. And it doesn't indicate sin at all.
To me, it's clear that they died because of the sin of the father.
Wow.
That God never forgives Aaron for. And in that sense, and continues to punish him.
Yeah.
Because every year, Aaron has to perform this ritual, which can do nothing other than remind Aaron of the death of his sons.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So in that sense,
That's pretty deep.
Aaron becomes the scapegoat.
Yeah.
It's not the goats.
So the only thing I will
It's
quibble
Aaron.
with her here, I think is a brilliant interpretation, and it works. I question the clarity because there's so many ways to read this, and that's certainly one compelling way. That's all.
Yay, Rabbi.
They did teach you how to do that in rabbinical school.
Yay, Rabbi.
They teach me anything in rabbinical school. Okay, Sharon Dolan. Online, coming in from a few blocks away.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I have a poem I wrote many years ago called The Scapegoat, which I could read. if you like.
Is it short?
It will take a minute and a half,
A minute and a half. Go for it.
something. I don't know. The
If it feels
scapegoat.
related to the conversation, go. Yeah.
It's actually it's more related to a time in my life then and a time in my life now as a Jew where I feel like I am the scapegoat. So
Okay.
it's not okay. Here we go. So it is in the voice of the goat.
Ooh.
Okay. The scapegoat. Little, scrawny, with barely enough hair on my forelegs to count for fur, I weather their wrath poured out upon my back. This one's eclipsed eye at the suicide, the guilty ones who stood by. That one's poor mothering, another's fury at my long teeth and vigorous lips, plucking the weeds, munching on anything that might be useful. I shoulder them all on my lumbering ribs. My globular eyes could have been a fish's or owl's, absorbing all sleepless nights, self-righteous yowls. By the time they send me out, I've grown fat with their poison, but I have two stomachs. One takes venom in, the other turns it to chime. They thought they'd make me lonely, banished in the wilderness, but here among the scrub and weeds, I find new friends. In fact, we formed a little club. Past midnight, each in our separate cave, we hear each other croon outrageous sorrow, mournful lays, preferring our separate selves, the better to compose. I sing in the wilderness, words, rants, fables, all my own. They seize me in the middle of a downpour, and I cry out to the crowds, come, give me all your pain, your guilt, your thorns. Fling them on my back like acid. Watch them turn my brilliant colored coat, sharpen up my horns. I can chomp on any food you throw me, however rancid. Cut off your, I'm having trouble reading, sorry. Cast off your wants, your gnashing rage. I'll chew and spit it on the page.
Wow.
Bravo.
I guess the writer has become scapegoat. What can I say?
Wow. So I love that imagination of like what it means to be in the wilderness and what it means to carry the sins of others. And I'll also ask, I think we do carry each other's sins. Like no one's, we're all porous and we're all affected by people around us and also people far away.
You especially, Rabbi.
Me especially,
You're
Rabbi.
a sensitive soul.
I'm a sensitive soul. So it's something to think about, like whose sins are you carrying, and do you feel like you're in exile? Does one feel like they're in exile? So I'm going to share my screen again. Oh no, I'm not going to share my screen. Caroline, you're going to share your screen, and we're going to look at the last. I missed a few. Not too many. A few readings from Mary Douglas that are worth reading. Actually, maybe, do we have time? Maybe we'll do one from Mary Douglas. Go down a little bit. Keep going. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Mary Douglas. Okay. I'm sorry. Go up one more time. Go up to 18. No. Okay. Stay at 19. Sorry. Stay at 19. Okay. So Mary Douglas says the Leviticus Rite of Atonement points to the central theological theme of the Pentateuch, which means the 5 books of Moses, a chosen people, and the contrast with the people who have not been chosen. The Genesis stories are about the eldest sons, for example, Ishmael and Esau, being superseded. Their respective younger brother Isaac and Jacob, destined before